Dang, that was really crunchy. I love it. It feels very horde. I said more drum. Ooh, more drum.
Yeah, it was fun going over it with her getting it set up.
Yeah, so shout out to our homie Sarita for creating our new awesome intro.
And it sounds fantastic.
Yeah, we'll be including her SoundCloud link in the description. But moving on. Welcome back, everyone, to another exciting episode of the Valley of Spirits. I'm Jordan, and with me always is my good friend Nick. How are you doing today, Nick?
Jordan, I'm doing great. Excited to dive into another week of World of Warcraft adventures, and we do have a lot to cover today, so let's jump right in. Jordan, why don't you regale our listeners with what you got up to in Azeroth this week?
Well, I talked to you a little bit about how I didn't think I played the game so much, but when I wrote this list out, I actually kind of played the game a lot more than I thought. So with retail, I got through 5 of 8 of the heroic on my Evoker with a good friend of mine. And my warrior and my mage did get through the normal. It was a pretty tame week. I always forget how much I love raiding until I get back into it. We always talk about my favorite parts of raiding are the dances, right?
Yeah.
You know, everybody doing the mechanics. Oh,
Which it's
beautiful.
Always, and I agree with you so much. It's so beautiful and everybody does it properly. It's so cool.
Yeah, when everybody Venn diagrams the, the separate.
So cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. So, dungeons, I actually did quite a few dungeons this week. I did a bunch of keys on my Evoker this week. Most of them ranging from like 2 to 4. But Nick and I did manage to clear a 6 pretty comfortably.
Yeah, we did.
I would say.
It was awesome.
It was pretty cool. Pretty solid group. Pretty cool dudes. My mage got into an interesting situation. I would say I got into a group that was very well equipped. And so I would call myself the worst DPS in this. However, they clearly said in their invitation or in their group, they say, need lust. And mage counts. So I got in there. Pretty cool. I did not no damage, but nothing compared to those homies. And so they ended up getting my mage up to a +8. So my mage gets a mythic track piece this week. So that's pretty exciting. So on my warrior, I did a couple of M2s and I did a 0. So these are like very easy keys or just the mythic dungeon now. She did a lot of player versus player this week, which we'll get into. So me and a close friend of mine, we'll call him Dalendor, came to play and level with me this week. I brought him through, well, he brought me through a bit of Panda. He's a very good player. He's very good at finding the quests. We got to 20, 25, somewhere in there. And we did Panda Remix just because he had already done a retail character, and we'll get more into that later. We'll talk about Dalendor in the Tavern Talk. Very excited to have a very old friend and a very cool friend come with me to play some World of Warcraft. I always like that. Very awesome. But other than that, I did finish up the heroic scenarios in Pandaria on my shaman. I've been doing an enhancement shaman, and it's been pretty cool. But other than that, I didn't do anything else. I just got the scenarios done and called it a week on Pandaria. I did spend quite a bit of time in PvP this week. I played solo shuffles on my Evoker. I got all the PvP quests done, except I didn't go do the world quests to get the sparks. I didn't do that. But I did all the other ones, the blitzes, the mass battlegrounds, which have no problems. So something we may talk in a later episode is about how much of solo shuffle is a mixed bag. I'm going to play it more. I played it on my Evoker and my Warrior this week, and I definitely think there's a lot of cool things, and there's a lot of not so cool things. And so I'm going to play it some more, and I guess I'll talk a little bit more about that. But I did do a lot of solo shuffles this week, and a lot of battleground. So Nick, what did you get up to this week in WoW?
Oh, let's see. So for raiding, we did that heroic together. Sadly, after you ended up dropping, we pretty much completed one more boss, and then the raid fell apart because we had got stuck on that one boss where you left for so long. But we'll get to the 8 out of 8 at some point. But we only ended up with a 5. But it happens, or as I put it, it be what it do. For Mythics, we did a decent amount of keys together, but I also pushed a lot. I loved that +6 we did because it felt so good to get back into doing Mythics. And for like retrospective, like, a 0 is now a 10. So that after that crunch, it like had to rework it in my brain that, okay, we're actually going into a 10 key. But to get to a +6, so we're talking a 16 then, just felt so damn good to be able to do that.
It was amazing having everybody do all the dispels. Like, no afflicteds went off, not one.
We were running like a well-oiled machine, and it was just so nice to be back.
Not in our house.
Yeah, but no, and then we ended up running a couple friends through Mythics, the lower keys like 0s and stuff. But that was still fun, and I think it was the Ruby Life pools. I ended up clipping about 960,000 damage a second, and that's the most I've ever done in a dungeon. Like, it's clicking with this paladin. Yeah, I'm so close to hitting that million.
Good
and it's just because I keep
murder.
pushing the armor. I loved your comments about all of those monsters had families.
No, I didn't. I was like, Nick, they might have had families. How can you do that to them?
They don't anymore. For leveling outside of game content, finally got my Holy Paladin to 70, so now it's just spending time to get her geared. I did actually change up the talent tree on her, so she runs a lot easier, I think, for what I attend her for, which is Mythic and Raid healing. So she'll just be endgame content. Maybe focus on Mythic, because they dropped having the 2 beacons on u.gg for Mythic builds, and picked up, I forget the spell, but it casts it, and it's an area of effect one that applies a beacon to everybody. So it gives me an area of effect heal for even single target healing. So it applies more for Mythic builds, and that's what I have her running as a talent trees off u.gg, and it's so smooth. So it's just getting that geared. Didn't touch Panda really. Did some Cataclysmic, and I created another character, which, Jordan, I'm sure you're going to be able to guess what race and class I made.
No, you definitely made a Night Elf Mage, right?
You're right, a Blood Elf Paladin. So, got her to level 10. Haven't done much else other than play that 10 levels on it. I do like playing even the same class and older stuff, because I like seeing how the class has evolved. For instance, you don't have to cast Seal of Righteousness to be able to cast Judgment in retail, whereas in Cataclysmic you have to cast Seal of Righteousness every 30 minutes. That way you then can continue to cast Judgment. Whereas in Classic, it's like 30 seconds, I think, is Seal of Righteousness. So you have to keep doing that in a rotation. It adds a different level to the game. And we didn't do any hardcore at all this week either, which I'm kind of sad about, Jordan. I really want us to make time for it. I think it'll be really fun.
Yeah, we do need to make time for it.
Yeah, but you did pull me into doing PvP in retail, which was fun as shit.
It was awesome.
I loved it, especially how we were rocking through that Battleground Blitz. We had a few instances of us going for that really long time. It was just you and I. You were playing your Evoker, I think, in Preservation, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So you had your Preservation Evoker. I was running the Ret Pally. And we were just smacking so hard that it took 5 people to get us down multiple times. And we were pulling people off the battlefield to let our team go capture points. It was amazing. And we ended up winning that one round. And then
we did. We won quickly, actually. It was pretty quick.
It was great. I loved it. And then we ended up doing the 2v2s and 3v3s, which we did okay. we did.
Yeah,
okay.
we need some more gear. We're not quite geared yet.
Well, I think we need gear, and we need to figure
some
out
crafties.
Yeah, we need gear, and we need to figure out more strategies and kind of figure out a best what really helps with
we'll work on that.
It's going to take time. We just got to do more of it, because I am enjoying doing it when you do get to pull me in. Yeah, I did love it though when we had that mix up where I ended up re-queuing with team or whatnot. So I went into the queue while you were out of it by accident, and I ended up with the demon hunter that had just stomped us the game before. Yeah,
an absolute freaking murderer.
Just wrecked us, which was great, because then I won the next match just automatically. Pretty much, it was beautiful. But that covers up my week in Warcraft. I think it's time for us to move into the game updates. Jordan, what updates do we have coming in the future?
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about more of this in the Tavern Talk, but I guess I'll just read the quote from Blizzard. Help defend Azeroth from the shadows below. When World of Warcraft The War Within launches on August 26th at 3 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And this is a worldwide 3 p.m. Pacific worldwide. Heed the call and take your place in the opening chapter of the World Soul Saga, a thrilling trilogy that begins in the depths of Kaz Algar. They have a solidified date when they're launching the full game, and they are continuing to deliver, as their roadmap has said.
Yes. I'll say, I love the fact that we have a roadmap.
And they're following it. They've exceeded what I expected from this roadmap.
It's just great to have it, and I think I said it in one of the earlier episodes, but the players have something to hold Blizzard accountable for now, because we have something to point at, and it's just beautiful.
Really is. So Nick, I know you're actually the guy who is the best at reading hotfixes. Will you get us started with them?
They always have the paladin read the hotfixes because the warrior can't.
Yeah, you can.
So, hotfixes for this week. We got June 3rd, June 5th, and June 6th. For retail, under Dungeons and Raids, Neltharius addressed an issue where multiple players can interact with burning chains. So, it helps to be able to do that. An issue was fixed where canceling Dragon Strike using invisibility will lead Chargath to not casting Ground Chain. Speaking of Chargath, he has had the following hotfixes done to him as well. Slag Eruption duration was reduced to 3 seconds, it was 4 seconds. Fetter duration increased to 15 seconds, it was 12 seconds. Moving on to Oldham, Legacy of Tyr. Bromac, Quaking Totem health has been reduced by 10%. And Emberon, Purging Flames visual will now line up with the beam area, so the DPS can now properly stand out of the beam.
Thank you.
It helps. That way the healers don't have to just burn all the mana. Moving on to items. Augury of Primal Flame was not proccing certain effects such as Seal of Duranus Chosen and Seal of File Duty. This has been corrected and they are all proccing now. Tome of Unstable Power was proccing off non-class spell effects such as self-damage from Vessel of Searing Shadows. This has been corrected and will no longer proc off non-class spell effects. Jepto Joybuzz and his Clockwork Assistant have received a new shipment of Primal Baubles in stock from the Mad Merchant. They can now be purchased during the month of June for the standard price of 250,000 gold.
Classic.
Yep. Art and animations. Bow of the Ranger Captain has been being held backwards. Don't worry, hunters, it's been fixed, so you don't pull the large group of monsters in the corner anymore.
Yeah, okay.
Which will still happen. We know how hunters are in dungeons. Vault of Incarnate cosmetic fist weapon purchased with bullion are now able to be sheathed, so they'll actually disappear off your character. For quests in retail, the quest Handling It Taut Tether Coil had an issue where casting Tether Coil rune on valid creatures was not awarding Taut Tether Coil. This has been fixed and you can now actually finish the quest. Another quest, the test Rune of Shadow Binding, has had an issue where raid encounters were not gaining credit, and this has been fixed, so the raids will now gain credit. Going into the WoW remix of Pander's Land, or Pandaria, the mini mana bomb for the Horde and Theramore's Tabard for the Alliance are available after completing Theramore's Fall. After you've reached level 35, you do not have to do it at exactly level 35, so you could be 70 and go complete Theramore's Fall and you're good to go. An issue was corrected where players could skip steps of the Infinite Power achievements. You can't do that anymore, so you have to follow everything. Tufts of Yak Fur are now stackable. Amazing.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow. Sky Admiral Rogers has been returned to her post so that players may now continue the quest onward and inward.
No, that's true. I'm trying to do everything in Pandaria for questing, so...
I know, you're trying to max that thing out. It's going to be a long haul. Shylon now spawns, as expected, on the Tireless Isle. Going into Cataclysm Classic, honor rewards from completing any random battleground or holiday battleground is increased by 100%. So you're going to earn 200% honor rewards from completing any random battleground or any holiday battleground. Admiral Rapsnarl added a visual effect that is now corrected. Another achievement bug has been squashed. Players will now be able to complete the achievement Apocalypse Now. In Conclave of Wind, players that die will now be able to actually receive the loot from Neezer. Previously, there was a bug that was preventing this from happening. fixed an issue that could cause the brutal and focused assault debuffs in Warsong Gulch and Twin Peaks to become misaligned. Fixed an issue preventing some players from seeing the siege tank during Battlezone after reconnecting from a disconnect, which I believe they also fixed last week on the disconnect issue. So I don't know why they're still having issues with that siege tank.
They've had a bunch of server problems this week, to be honest with you. I can't imagine they released anything like a beta or something like that.
Oh, yeah, I know. It's been pretty ridiculous with it. For Season of Discovery, our last category, the quest Goblin Solutions was stealing extra mines from players. Don't worry, it has been addressed. They'll take the right amount for a goblin. Jordan, what do you think about all these fixes?
So I'm going to start with a lot of these things are quests and parts of the game that were not completable. They're doing a lot of things. They're thinking about a lot of players that are playing the game for all kinds of reasons.
Yeah.
They're fixing really deep quests. They're fixing bugs on dungeons. They're doing all kinds of crazy things to fix the bugs and really make sure the game is fun and intuitive to play. So I'm going to dive over all the problems. Some of them are kind of funny, but I'm going to scoop over it today, which are some of the more subjective changes they made. So you talked earlier about the Neltharis fight.
Yep.
So when talking about Chargath, it reads as he has the following hotfixes done. Slag Eruption was reduced to 3 seconds, and it was 4 seconds. And so they made that chiller easier. And then the fetter duration was increased to 15. Which I think is crazy.
Yeah.
It's almost like an increased, like, enrage, like they want you to kill the boss faster. And then they made, like, the nuke mechanics easier. It's kind of an interesting approach. And so I don't know if we should study something based on this, or if this is a pattern they're trying to look for, but I think that's kind of interesting. Easier during the fight if you don't get it done in time. So I guess we'll see if more of these things will be baked in, right?
Yep. No, and I think they might be trying something new, or they might be noticing something with these two that we aren't seeing as well. I have no idea. I find the fight decent with Chargath, unless you have DPS that doesn't understand the chains on him. That's the only time it becomes an issue, because you can't just pop them all at once. You have to do them one at a time.
Right.
So it's more, I've only seen issues when it's a player skill issue of either mechanics or not enough damage, and we wipe because we hit the raid mechanic wipe. Or I'm sorry, the dungeon mechanic wipe.
Absolutely. So some class changes. If you remember the class changes that we talked about in the last episode, they have been applied on the June 5th public hotfix posted by Blizzard as well. They did some interesting mixing of the hotfixes. It almost makes me wonder when exactly they were applied properly kind of thing. We'll see. But this also includes the PvP changes that we discussed as well. So we'll start with Cataclysm Classic. For Priest, Atonement Healing will now deprioritize pets and will only heal them if their health is very low compared to available players. It will then treat them as if their health percentage was 50% or higher when evaluating targets. That's actually pretty interesting. They're going to only heal pets when they're low. That's kind of gross.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Well, and even then it takes into account, what was it? Only if their heal is 50% or something like that. It's weird. They're doing a weird target evaluation on it, so it's just interesting. I wonder if there was an issue with overhealing of pets and not focusing on the players when they casted it.
Probably, yeah. Numbers look good, but wasn't healing players, maybe. Moving on, Shaman. Precision was granting unintended additional 1, 2 to 3% change in hit. Don't worry, Blizzard fixed this feature. I mean bug. Druid. Clear casting will no longer be consumed by Nourish. So they added a developer's note in here, which I always like reading these. These are interesting. So they said, this mirrors a change that was originally made in patch 4.0.3a. Nourish is a low-cost heal and is intended to be a filler spell. It simply does not feel good casting Nourish and have clear casting go off and then spend it on an incoming Nourish. I mean, sorry, Druids, if you like just smashing Nourish, but the gods have spoken.
Yep.
Paladin. Some cheese has been fixed. Paladins no longer start arena matches with Inquisition or more than 0 holy power. Boo-hoo. Wah wah.
But you see, that's actually really, really bad. We should be able to do everything. No, it makes sense though, because we could walk in and have one of our harder spells just be right ready to go.
Fair and balanced, as paladins are. So moving on to PvP updates, the rewards for solo shuffles have increased to 5 crests. It was 3 crests. Rewards have also increased for rated 2v2s and 3v3 arenas to 2 crests. It was 1. And so there's a couple of changes here, not too many, but Nick, what do you think?
I think it's interesting that with Paladins being Blizzard's favorite class, that we aren't allowed to go into arenas with more than 0 holy power. It's interesting that we have a debuff, basically.
Right? A debuff, imagine.
We're not allowed to just lay waste to everybody when we walk in? What the hell's going on with that?
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Undead, war chiefs, whatever, you know?
Let's not go down the road of war chiefs yet. We still gotta wait for Tavern Talk.
Yeah, we gotta wait for Tavern Talk. We're waiting. So, Nick, moving forward, talking about what's coming up this week. Holidays, events, maybe things like that.
Yep, so weirdly, no holidays this week, which is kind of strange sometimes when there aren't even just a day holiday. But we do have events coming up. Time Walking Cataclysm ends today. It's kind of not sad that you can still super level in Panda, but if you need a retail character now, Time Walking's over for a bit. No more Deep Wind Dunk, which I don't know why everyone hates it so much. Definitely better than some of the other ones. The events that are starting this week are mostly PvP related. We have a Battleground bonus event that's increasing all honor from Battlegrounds by 50%. It's a really good time to get all some honor and drag up your characters and drag in your friends, which I'm sure is what Jordan will be doing with me.
Wink.
Yeah, wink. It's okay. I need the PvP gear. I think I still have like 2 pieces from season 3.
The Alliance will pay.
It's how we kill the Alliance. And then we get the Shadowpan Showdown this week, which is my favorite, or Jordan's favorite, I think, because he wrote these notes.
I did.
Of the blitzes. You essentially get a specified amount of time to either harm the boss or the other team hitting the boss. It's a good balance of PvE strength and PvP focus as well. Jordan, what fixes are we going to see in the Mythics coming up?
So this coming up week, starting on Tuesday, is Fortified, Incorporeal, and Sanguine. So Fortified week, non-boss enemies have 20% more health and up to 30% increased damage. What they mean by up to 30% is if there's a large pack of a bunch of tiny mobs, they're not going to increase all of their damage up to 30%. They're taking a very kind of balanced approach at it. They don't want you to get absolutely nuked by the teeny little plants because there's 30 of them, right?
Yeah.
So with Fortified, you got to remember this is Trash Week. Be careful with big pulls. Things like trash will accidentally get pulled. This will hurt a little extra more than it does.
Looking at you, hunters.
Hunters. No, it's not just hunters.
I know.
The next affix, starting at keys 5 and higher, is Incorporeal. While in combat, incorporeal beings periodically appear and try to weaken players. This is the hard CC effects. This is the one where you need to use things like Polymorph, Good Long Fears, Sleepwalk, etc. You can look up for your class which specific one you need to keep in mind. I mean, also, I guess don't play a warrior. Play a paladin, right, Nick?
Always. They're way better.
And the final affix, which is only on keys 10 and higher, is Sanguine. When slain, non-boss enemies leave behind a lingering pool of ichor that heals their allies and damages players. So the Sanguine Ichor it's talking about heals creatures for 5% of their maximum health every 1 second. So this has been tremendously nerfed. It used to be 15% every 1 second, now it's only 5. And it damages players for 15% of their maximum health every 1 second. So the damage hasn't changed. I think that's cool. Don't stand in the pools. They're not going to heal for way more than your healer ever possibly could. So it's good. This one can be tricky. You'll notice the tank has to move mobs around a lot to make sure they don't get healed. The moral of this story is The heal isn't super massive anymore. I like that they don't make it such a huge spike, where if you get 1 or 2 ticks, it's the end of the world. This one is tricky. You will notice that tanks move mobs around to make sure that they don't get the healing. I like that they changed it from it not being a super big spike. Like, having them in there for 1 tick isn't the end of the world now. But if you leave them in there, you are gonna know. So that part's kind of cool. On hierarchies, you want to make sure to try and kill everything at a similar time, or stay nimble. Like, you want to kill them in packs and then make a pool and then move it. And then kill a couple more and then move it. So for the DPS, this one's pretty simple. If you're a melee, you got to walk out of the pools on the ground. You have to. It hurts. Especially on high keys.
Yeah, it becomes vastly more deadly the higher you go.
Keep in mind mobility this week for melee. For range, there's no volcanics, so it's a little bit of a chiller week for the ranged. So I think we covered everything. I think that's the end of the script, isn't it?
I believe it is, which means we are heading for
Tavern Talk.
Tavern Talk.
Woo!
Alrighty, Jordan. So
as we start every Tavern Talk,
right,
we're gonna take a drink. So
of our favorite spirits.
Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you if you're still here. I appreciate you listening. And to the Valley of Spirits. All right, Nick. I always like you starting the first Tavern Talk. What are we talking about? What are we starting with?
So while we were doing the notes, we actually started this discussion, and we decided to save it for Tavern Talk, which was you had brought up how they might be using the Panda remix to bring in gems into retail, how we have them in Panda. And I had made the statement that it's okay if they only bring in, I think it was the cogwheel ones, so that because it stemmed from, due to our fixes that we have this coming week, that your warrior is unable to be like useful. And by having the cogwheel, it would give you the ability to slot a gem in that would make you now useful.
There's all kinds of things like that. Like, I could take a polymorph, for example, or I could take a cleanse.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is you'd be able to get cleanse instead of having to wait for Blizzard to make cleanse on a warrior, which I don't know how they would make it like a thing.
It'd have to be balanced, because then you could also have a druid on Afflicted Week that has like 3 cleanses now or something, because they take the shaman one or whatever.
Right.
So they have to make sure they only make sure one is available. You got to be picky about things like that, because it's retail. It's got to be decently balanced. It can't be absolutely out of control like Panda is.
We're not supposed to be playing Panda like we are retail.
Correct.
And vice versa.
I do think there's an interesting play to be had with some meta gems are kind of interesting.
I think the only gems that would be good for retail are those cogwheel ones. And I'm sticking to that.
Well, they obviously can't do the stat gems, because then jewel crafting is dead.
Right.
So they can't do that.
Well, I think
they destroy the profession system.
I think if they're going to bring it in,
they'll
slap it into the professions.
Yeah, some of it. I do think that's an interesting point you bring up. Like,
except
they could make enchanting do really cool or interesting things. Yeah.
And I think too, if that happens, do you know the price of those gems?
They'll figure that out. They'll make them easy enough to make.
It'll be ridiculous.
It'll be fine. Sure. You know how Blizzard is.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll never
figure it out the first shot, especially on retail.
It doesn't take 14 years to fix a bug.
Never.
I just love that it happened. I think they are actually on top of stuff. It's just funny.
I'm just saying I wouldn't get used to the way gems are in Pandaland. That's for sure. They cannot incorporate it like that. Having them drop from everybody and upgrading them by smashing them together and having money, nah, jewel crafting's dead.
Right.
So don't get used to the jewels. I do think there should be an item slot, whether it's an enchant or whether you can have 2, right? You can have like a meta gem kind of deal, where you like have a specific head enchant or some garbage. And then you have like a jewel you put in your ring or something. Like 2 of them could be a good start.
I think that it should only be those cogwheels, just because I think that it fixes the issue, like I said, of you not being useful on a warrior. but I don't think a lot of the other ones just make a character too overpowered, and it should stay in things like the remix if we ever have another one. I
Well, and
think it's the only thing that can get useful without breaking retail.
yeah, because the cogwheel gems aren't like damage; they're normally mobility specific, as a lot of them.
Which I mean, I would actually appreciate an extra mob. Like if I could pick up
Yeah.
Blink on my rep pally, because that would give me
If I could have blink in my damn evoker, that'd be fucking awesome.
yeah, it'd help you a lot because you have a 30-yard range max.
Yeah, I'd be blinking my ass all around.
Boop 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 boop.
Yeah.
Just a dragon appearing out of nowhere. Bleh.
So there's definitely some good play to be had there. I wanted to finish something. Hold on one second. I wanted to talk about. If you could utilize cogwheel gems in retail, I do think the first thing I would do is on every melee character, I'm going to take Heroic Leap.
Yeah.
And that's just how I play. My favorite class, one of my favorite classes, I guess, is how I'll
Paladin,
leave
right?
it, is Warrior. And so I love Heroic Leap. I'm very, very good at it. Nick, if you had to pick your favorite spell that you could use on any class in retail, what is the pally spell?
What do you mean by that?
I mean the horse, right? You want to horsey around.
Yeah, I mean,
On everybody,
I
right?
get 2 charge of those. I have 2 of those on the rep pally, and then I think I have the extended talent too.
So I'll choose our next topic. We're talking about Dalendor. I mentioned I was going to talk about a good friend of mine that played with us recently. So I mentioned I was going to bring up the context of why he already has a retail character. When he came to play the game, he really wanted to be a dwarf, and so he chose a dwarf. And you may have noticed around here we're kind of horde-ish. We kind of only play horde. It's kind of how we've been and always have been. And so there's a bit of an issue with bringing him through easy content. I can't play, if he wants to play on his dwarf, I can't play LFRs or heroic dungeons with him in the random queue, which
Well,
are
Jordan,
perfect.
why? What is the key reason?
Because he's Alliance.
Yep, there we go.
His dwarfs are Alliance. So I don't mean to keep beating this dead horse, but there's got to be something fixed about the playability of the factions. I think that could be almost interesting the way they twist it if they let everybody defect, or I don't know, the Alliance does something messy or stupid, and then there's a ton of reasons for all these dwarves to defect. Like, doesn't that sound cool?
No, it sounds dumb.
Sounds dumb.
Yeah,
Well,
I shouldn't have the lore change just to have playability better. You should find a way to make playability happen, so that way lore stays correct, if that makes sense. Correct's probably the wrong word, but don't fuck up lore for playability. Adjust playability to match lore.
I disagree. Like, it's a game first and foremost. It's got to work and it's got to be fun to play.
As
So we differ on that.
we should have it be able to be like, we already have cross-faction guilds, right? So we have that playability. We can also we should be able to queue up together and play. Yeah, should be able to do that because we already can when it comes to doing pre-made groups.
Right, and it's totally back-ass words that why can you do the normal, the harder content with cross-faction, but not the LFR content? Like, I can't queue with my buddy who's a dwarf, but I'm going to get matched with dwarfs in the queue and in the raid?
Right, yeah, and that's probably because the way LFR works is the fact that it's just you queue up. Now, granted, that would just mean that you should be able to group up or something to where you're going to do LFR, but that runs the question of how do you allow opposing faction players to group up and not go do content and just do LFR up, if that makes sense.
I just don't see a problem with letting him do it.
I mean, like I said, I see a problem with destroying lore for a game. I don't see
It's
a
not
problem
destroying
with
the lore. We're working together with the aspects.
trust me, we've been over this too. I absolutely hate the the reduced amount of horde content we've had when it comes to lore. Because it's all. I mean, even go look at the trailer for the War Within. The biggest thing that we have is Thrall with his erectile dysfunction of the elements. Like, and he's in there for 2 seconds, and it's his back with Anduin. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, you bring up a pretty good point. Are we gonna be Alliance for 3 more expansions now?
Yeah, exactly. But and I get your point, and I think it's something that does need to be brought up, and it can be fixed without destroying lore, like without creating some bullshits. That way, we then get the ability to play because the factions themselves are very deep rooted into the lore. And to just remove them or have them be like a figurehead, so to speak, it removes the aspect of even having that lore there. So it'd just be like, well, fuck it, let's just go play ESO or some shit.
Well, yeah, I guess we'll leave it up to Blizzard. We've heard our opinions on where the Alliance should be in the separation. I think they could lessen it a bit more. I definitely do.
Well, for playability and doing endgame content, yeah. But maybe he can go get his dwarf up and then push up to getting the normals. And then we could just be playing with him too.
Well, so we just say, okay, good luck. Figure out how to raid.
Gonna have to learn somehow. I mean, it sucks. It sucks, but
Jump in running, I guess.
He also could just not play a dwarf. It's not that hard.
I just think there is a big part of the game where you do really want to idolize your character and the way your character may look. I mean, whether or not I agree with wanting to be a short man with a big nose and a beard is not necessarily my cup of tea, for sure.
Right, I don't
really
play orcs. I don't like the model.
And I do like orcs. I like a lot of the models, but I like the horde. I like the tough.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've ever seen me in person, I'm not a very huge or strong person. So playing as one of these really strong or tough-looking characters,
Daniel Radcliffe.
I'm shorter than him, even shorter than that guy. Yeah, it is possible, believe it or not. There are men shorter than him.
No, I get wanting to have an appearance a specific way. I mean, I always play Blood Elves damn near. Like, I've tried doing other races in the Horde. I'm like, I don't like the characters. Taurens are way too big for me. I don't like how the orcs
are. They're how you.
Yeah, I don't like. Just not a fan. I play Undead and Blood Elf pretty much. But they also have the lore that I really like too. So it's a mixed bag.
I guess I want to make sure I say this loud and clear so that way I don't get cut badly. I feel like my least favorite race in World of Warcraft is probably the Horde, specifically. Horde World of Warcraft race is the Valkyrian. I think are kind of weird.
Yeah, I'm also tired of them.
I think everybody else kind of belongs, but that was kind of weird.
I don't like the fact that we now have. I understand adding one every once in a while, but we are sitting at how many races now in this game?
So each faction has a choice of 11 race options. This includes the shared options like Pandaren and Drakthir, for example. So it's 19 total unique races, somewhere in there.
Which is it, and it's just so much. I mean, I understand. I think where I grew to have this pain for me was when they just dropped all the allied races and they're like, look, now you have literally doubled every race in the game, or the number of them. And it's just, I think it's so much that like they could just do without them. And yeah, take the Valkyrian because I don't like them.
It just feels out of place. Now, mind you, the people that feel out of place, they come to the Horde, so we could be Horde boomers. And to be honest with you, if they're going to be an organized race that's pretty cool and collective and pays off sometimes, then and the Alliance didn't take them, I guess we'll see what they got, right? We'll see what they can write in. Maybe there'd be a couple of cool Valkyrians somewhere. Something they could do with it. They could make me like them.
Yeah, but I don't know. I did like the questing for them in God, what was it? BFA. I thought it was pretty good. I liked them. They were cute as an NPC, but I've tried playing as one. I just don't like it. But I also don't like goblins. I don't like the smaller statue classes or characters or races, whatever you want to call it.
Small boys. I think they're cute. The problem is I did I chose her as female, and I have a little bit of trouble with the voice track. Can be a little tough to swallow.
Does it sound like one of your favorite characters?
I mean, it's not that bad. It's not quite. Oh no, Morty! But it's I'm glad I'm not playing a warrior. I'm glad it's a warlock, if that makes sense. If I was a warrior, it would be like, you know, when your mom walks in and you're playing World of Warcraft, but it sounds like hentai, like.
I have never experienced that, Jordan. Do you care to share to the world?
No, that's it. We gotta hope for sponsors someday. That's it. Yo, World of Warcraft or Red Bull, if you guys are listening. Yo. Yeah, so it brings up such an interesting topic. Dalendor, I appreciate you so much for playing with us this last week. I hope you'll join us some more.
Especially with your wonderful computer. What the hell is it? Your mouse.
Oh, he is so for those who live around the Midwest, he is what we call a 5 and below gamer. Oh, I almost forgot. We have to talk about how he's a 5 and below gamer.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's
he paid something like $8 for his mouse.
Oh my God, this
he
mouse
paid
is
something
ridiculous.
like $11 for his keyboard, and then he's like, "Oh, I need a numpad," and so then he paid like $2 for this damn numpad. He's like, "Yeah, and I had extra money and stuff, so then I bought this RGB fucking chair mat."
Yeah, it's. And let me gotta see this picture again of his mouse because I use a Razer Naga. I have a wireless version and a wired version. The wireless one is my travel one, but he had posted this mouse and it has, I think, where is it at?
No, stay tuned. We'll ask him and see what pictures we can post on the Twitter. See if he can be an @Dalendor maybe. We'll see. It looks like some Lego.
It looks horrific.
Multicolored, cheap plastic, barely painted.
It looks like something you'd buy to like the Walmart bin.
He is an elite gamer on an entire system. All his peripherals are like $60 or $80, and I don't want to get into how much my peripherals were, but I spent a bit more than $60 to $80 on my peripherals. I just
bought the Leopold keyboard. That was $150.
Right. Like, our boy Dalendor has like 3 whole setups for that cost.
I know. Well, I only got that keyboard because it matched the new look that my PC is, because I'm going with that sleeper build.
Oh, the sleeper build. Well, let's bring us back to World of Warcraft. Just wanted to say, Dalendor, thank you for playing. More WoW to come, for sure, I hope. And so, the beta and the war within. I'll talk about how I thought the alpha was actually a bit more. So I specifically didn't touch on the alpha too much. I didn't want to on this podcast. It's a pretty exclusive experience. But with the beta being something that they're trying to let a bunch of people into, I'm going to talk about how really terrible the servers were right out the gate.
Yeah.
They were absolutely it
was dog water.
I had absolute dog water. Like, when I got invited to the alpha, there was absolutely no problems with they didn't have the warbands, like, animation screen figured out for a while, but a lot of times I still loaded in and could click on my characters and change realms, and so they definitely did not expect quite the traffic that the beta would cause.
Yeah.
When they had a pay your way into beta, they probably should have thought about something like this, because they did it in Mists too, a pay to get in beta.
Oh yeah, I mean they should have known that it was going to cause a lot of issues. I did also. I don't know if you saw this, because we were
retail
both,
too. It leaked into retail.
Yeah, we were both a little miffed when, if you bought the physical collector's edition, you didn't get beta, but they fixed it. They did send like an email out to those people too.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm miffed. I bought your fucking crazy edition. How about you kiss my ass?
What?
No, it's like, I bought your super duper edition with the models.
Physical copies of stuff and whatnot. Why am I not getting a beta? 100%.
Yeah,
Because it was twice as much
absolutely.
as the Epic Edition or whatever they had online on the store.
So I guess I'm just gonna talk about how I feel about the Drakthir hero talents real quick, and then we'll move on from the beta. When I got into my first dungeon, I was wondering why I wasn't healing very much. I was like, dang, all my heals are like less effective. And then I was like, oh wait, I gotta hit red circle. Red circle just mean more healy all the time for free. And so I do wish it was a little bit more complicated because I did read what everything did, but what it boils down to is red circle mean heal. So just mash red circle whenever red circle be up, just red circle. So it's kind of what it felt like. They got to make it a little bit more. I think they got to like extend the cooldown and then restore the rest of the class a bit. And that's just my opinion on preservation of Evoker in the beta. I did talk about it in the bug reports. Just that's all I really got into for those lizard gizzards out there.
I mean, I played Paladin, obviously, in the beta so far, and I like the way the class is going. It seems like we have a couple more talent stuff to deal with, a couple more spells. The rotation is almost similar to what I use, but because of I don't know if it's the hero spells. I got to dig into it. I don't know if it's from the hero spells or from if there's new talents in there or not. I'm pretty sure it's the hero talents, but it adjusted to where a couple spells have like 2 attacks or 2 variations of an attack, and it pops or has to proc with the holy power. So it's interesting. I like how it's going.
Yeah, because they did change what they did in the Evoker tree some too. They changed like you have to get spells in different orders.
Mm-hmm.
They put some more utility or more key spells earlier on the tree and then more damage and hyper focus kind of things later on the tree, which I think is pretty interesting and cool.
Yeah. No,
So
like
they're trying some.
I've really enjoyed what they've done so far. Now, granted, I've only done the one class, but it's been good.
Well, me too. I've only done Evoker. I need to start tapping on my warrior too, so bring a warrior up in it.
You mean you actually want to play something other than your lizard gizzard?
I have been lizarding pretty hard lately.
Yeah, you
I've
have.
been lizarding out. No, that's supposed to sound like a snake tongue, is what that was supposed to sound like.
Everybody just got a weird ASMR sound.
Oh my gosh, we'll have to get one of those like mics that you like lick or something.
Oh God, no, we're not doing that.
No, yeah, we're not those kind of podcasters. You're right.
This is clean family content with the occasional
This
swear
is
word.
moderately family friendly content.
Yeah, with
It's
the occasional swear
PG-13
word.
for sure. Right.
Actually, with PG-13, I think the rating is you can have an F-bomb anywhere. 1.
Oh.
But I think I've already used it like 3 times this episode.
I do think we may have to, we may not be PG-13 as far as cinemas are concerned. So I think we'll keep talking about the beta. We'll make a bigger section for it for sure. There's a lot to talk about with it. We honestly did not play it as much as we wanted to.
Yep.
Listen to how much we did in retail, and we did not spend enough time with the beta this week. So
No.
we'll have a lot more to touch on next week.
Yeah, we will definitely be pushing into that. It's just, we need to. Because I want to learn about how my class is being adjusted and whatnot.
Well, and contribute too.
Right. Yeah, I know. I
How
already
the
put in
classes
a
I care
couple.
Better than
Bug
a
fixes.
forum picking your set pieces on some. Anyway.
What? I thought that was the best thing they've ever done.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
just ingenious.
Yeah, we talked about that in a past episode. But, saucy. So, let's move on with some really good news with the War Within, though. Something that's coming with the war bands. Last thing I wanted to talk about in this Tavern Talk is an updated list of currencies that will be transferable to your alts as of the War Within pre-patch. So, Nick, you want to read these to me, or you're better at reading than I am? I'm barely can handle it.
Yeah. All right. So this is a long list, so bear with us. You get 7th Legion service medals, cataloged research, champion seals, cosmic flux. You have a 17% loss in transfer, curious coin, ciphers of the frost ones, dark moon prize ticket, dragon isle supplies, elemental overflow, grateful offering, honor-bound service medal, infused ruby, mysterious fragment, nether shard, paracausal flakes, riders of Azeroth badges, seafarer's doubloon, soul ash, and soul cinders, but both also lose that 70% in transfer, timeless coin, time warped badge, trial of style token, undercoin, and war resources, which have a 24% loss in transfer.
So this is sweet. Take a look at all the things throughout expansions that you wanted to transfer between characters. This is like probably half to 75% of the stuff they can't fuck up is already gonna be totally ready. There is going to be more. So there might be some time to wait because they got to figure out how they want to split. Because you're talking about the Soul Ash and Soul Cinders that lose 17% loss and transfer. So there's going to be a lot that have different kinds of loss and transfers coming out. You're going to have more 24s. You're going to have more, maybe even some 33s. Because in situations where they want it to be more weekly account bound to get done, and you'll see more of these things like war resources, especially in PvP stuff, they'll be pretty strict on it and converting it. But you notice they did not mention things like conquest points or honor or anything like that.
Right.
So all of they want to, we'll see where they go with it. I think it'd be really cool to just straight up have honor on your warband and then just be able to buy all the PvP gear for all your characters, right, that you care about. Or conquest even. Because if you farm really hard on one character, you should be able to conquest another character, in my opinion, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So there's still some more work to be done on this. I wish there was more things on this list. Makes sense why there isn't. They don't say honor or conquest on this because they don't want you to think you're taking your Dragonflight honor with you. They're going to wipe the slate, start a new PvP season, and then maybe we'll see if all our honor will be warbands and all that. This is just the pre-patch. So I'm interested to see where this goes. There's some things that need to be on here that aren't. But they got a lot of it. Like, they even got timeless coins and time warp badges. Like, time warp is sweet. That's why I think it's so crazy they didn't do, like, honor at least. Like, conquest, okay, fine, I understand. You gotta earn the conquest piece on the character. But honor, come on.
I mean, I don't know. I kind of get it, too. Because all this is just stuff to buy other crap. If so to speak, like, you know, Dark Moon Fair prize ticket. I'm just buying shit from Dark Moon. It's not armor and end game content stuff, as far as I remember from all of this.
Yeah, I mean, they got most of the new stuff. Like, they have the paracausal flakes, you know, from... Right. They even thought about that from the temporal conflux, right?
I'm surprised, too, they didn't do crests or anything like that. But I can also understand not doing that because then you have to play the character to get the armor up.
Right. You have to do the content. I think at the higher end, I think they should be more chill with the lowest crests and make them account bound. But I don't know. Part of it is you don't want people that really don't know how to play the game at all getting gear. But ultimately, if they swipe, then they can just buy enough WoW tokens to get it. So
that's true.
Yeah, carries have been cheap for a bit now. Not that I'm advertising anything. That's terrible. Play the game yourself. But they are cheap as hell right now, which says something. How many people are buying them, right?
Right.
Or maybe not buying them.
Right, yeah. I mean, if we're talking a simple supply and demand thing, then they're out there to do it, but they're not getting it done. So they're probably dropping the price.
Well, actually, I think that's we're going to wrap up Tavern Talk with that. So, Nick, would you send us out?
Definitely. This has been another episode of the Valley of Spirits with your hosts and favorite Horde players, Jordan and Nick. You can find us in Veldrak and on the Melgana server. You can find our guild by searching for the Electric Boogaloo. You can also find us on Facebook and X or Twitter, or whatever the kids are calling it these days, by searching for the Valley of Spirits podcast. And as always, for the Horde.
For the Horde!